water. What colors did we use? For the basic drawing, we used white, a little bit of white, some blue, and some dark red to make a bluish purple. A bluish purple. I don't want a reddish purple, I want a bluish purple. Because the bluish purple will cooperate with everything I put into this painting. So, how did we do this? We started with a light, warm horizon color. And we used white, burnt sienna, and a little bit of blue. So I'm going to start with a light, warm horizon color. That's going to go back there. And I'm going to think in terms of that strata that we talked about. Now, the technique of painting that I've shown you is called pool painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some straight raw sienna and I'm going to put a little bit of blue with it and a little touch of burnt sienna. And I'm going to put a stain. That's a little bit too green. I'm going to break it up a little bit more with raw sienna. And this is going to be kind of a generic color. Take a little bit of burnt sienna. A generic color for the bottom of my stream. In a situation like this, we are going to attempt to paint the bottom of the stream the color of wet rocks under the water and what's being reflected off the top of the water. So I'm going to use a little bit of orange here in a couple places. So I'm just putting in that base color like. Now I'm going to go back and remember what we did with the sky yesterday. We went back and softened all our edges in the sky with a vertical stroke. I softened my sky here with a vertical stroke. I'm going to have some accidental variations of color. When I do this, I'm going to want to put a little suggestion of this in the water. Now I got it a little bit darker here, a little darker. Then it got darker still. That wet base of the riverbed is automatically blending with some of my reflections. Reflections in water appear to be vertical, while movement in water appears to be horizontal. I'm going to now put the suggestion of reflection in the water with short little vertical strokes. Now let's suggest some rock. What's the easiest recipe for a natural gray or a natural rock? Well, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'm going to start with some white, burnt sienna, not right into the white. I'm going to take some burnt sienna here, and blue. Now, as I go into this, look what happens. White, burnt sienna, and blue gives me a natural gray. So I'm going to start, how did we do trees? We started with a number 2 color. Now, if I start here, I can load my brush and start in this area and work towards that bank all the way back there. And as I'm picking up wet paint, I'm causing my paintbrush to show the variations in rocks as I'm going back in space. I have this color. I'm going to take some white in there now and a touch of orange. And voila, I've got the color of some rocks that are being hit by the sunlight. Now, as I go back in space, I can kind of darken and cool them a little bit. And then I'm going to soften some of my edges here. There's rocks back in space. Now, there's rocks in the river. Some of them are a little bit lighter, some of them a little darker. Now I'm going to add some white, and I'm going to show the power of the sun hitting some of them by putting a little touch of orange with it. We want to be careful not to have too many rocks that are about the same size. We want some variations. Now, I've got my number 2 and my number 1s there now. What I need to do is I need to put some number 3s in my rock. So I'm going to take some burnt sienna and blue, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get some number 3 colors, and maybe a little touch of that cool red. I want to get some shadows in my rocks now. I actually can start to almost see some reflection of rocks in the water with a short vertical stroke right here in the front. They're back there in the trees. So I need very, very little definition of these guys. Just a little bit. And I'm going to soften these edges up because I don't want too sharp of a line here. Because this is back in the distance. You cannot paint water. You can only paint what's under the water, which is wet rocks, and what's on top of the water being reflected off. Now, we have not shown the design of the shadows in the rocks under the surface of the water. We're going to show the design of shadows, the design of some of these rocks that are under the surface here. There's going to be some darks, but we want them to be darks that are fitting with the design of rocks, fairly flat rocks, that are found in the base of a stream. And those rocks have cracks and crevices. They have cracks and crevices that we're aware of. Some of them are a little bit longer than others. Okay? So little variations. You can only see them right here in the front. Now, with those rocks, some of them are being hit by sunlight and appear, so you have a pattern of light and shadow in the bottom of the stream. So I'm going to try to show where the light is hitting the surface of some of these rocks that's under the water. Get the warmth of the sun. And sometimes you might get a little bit of a reddish hue that's off to the side a little bit more of some of these rocks that are under the surface. And I like to put a little bit more intense just in a couple of spots. Lighten this up a little bit more. I want this to be the lightest rock right here. Now, we don't have to obsess over too many of these colors being repeated in the water. You know, we've got enough going on now. Basically, all we have to do now is put a couple of tweaks of some real light hitting a few of these rocks. I am now showing the transparent nature of water. The reflections bouncing off, and I'm seeing the bottom of the stream. Now, I can see the bottom of the stream here, but I can't see it so well way back here, so why bother? So what color is my sky? My sky is white with a little touch of burnt sienna and blue. I'm going to start with a real light sky color. And watch what happens as we start to show the motion in the water. Reflections are vertical and movement is horizontal. So I'm going to start with real light back here. That's the real light sky that's up there. As I come forward, I want my sky to get a little bit bluer. I'm coming forward. I'm going to get a little bluer. Now, as I get down here, I find that I'm going to have to get even bluer. Now, in this shadow area back here, definitely darker. It's going to come off a little darker in that shadow area. And over here, I want it to be a little darker. But here, right in this whitewater area, or this transparent area, I'm going to go back to a lighter color. This is the hammer stroke. That's a good question. I'm using a hammer stroke, which is bang, 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 bang on the knife edge of the brush. I'm going to take that, and it's bang, 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 as I go with and against the bristle of the brush. Now I'm going to put a lighter one right in here. You got room for a little bit of reflection. Sometimes there's a little bit of what I would call a touch of white water going around a rock. So I'm going to take a little bit of white water, but I don't want it to be warm. I want it to be a little bit of a gray. A very light but cool gray. And so I'm going to suggest a little white water here. And maybe a little trough of white water here. So water is, you paint, if you can see it, if it's shallow water in a stream bed, you paint water by painting the stream bed that's all wet, and then you paint it by what's being reflected off the surface, and then the movement, okay, the reflections are vertical, and the movement is horizontal in appearance. So you do the vertical reflections first,